Okay, hi everyone. This is our empathy training design team, and this is our meeting number 4. And we want to invite any viewers. We're just saying hello to you as a viewer. If you would like to join us in designing an online empathy training MOOC. And we're forming teams online to do that. And this is one of our teams. And so if you're watching this and you're interested in contributing to building a curriculum, online empathy training MOOC, you can join us. Or if you just want to take a training, you can also contact us. And the way to connect with us is go to empathytent.com, and you'll see a link there for how to get involved. And with that, I think we're up. There she is. Oh, we were missing you.
Hi, Vasha.
Hey, Varsha, okay, we hear you. Okay, great. We're going into, Celia is leading us in a self-connection exercise.
Edwin, are we recording?
We are recording.
Okay, good.
Okay. Hello, everybody. What we normally do with feeding back to each other is the words, and we try to capture the feeling. What I would like to help you guys do is, what can we do when we are online? What do we capture from each other? And we can use, of course, our eyes. We can look at each other. We can see how we are sitting. And I would like to ask you to just look at us and focus maybe on one of us. Maybe I thought we were all in the same row, but that's not the case. So if you pick the person above you, because Peter is not visible, right? So Peter, if you pick William, I see William above you. William, you choose me. Varsha, you choose Bob. And Bob chooses Edwin, and I choose Varsha. Then
I choose Bob, you choose me.
Yes, yes. And what we are doing is just looking at the person and see what information you get. Information about how they are doing, how they're feeling, what maybe is a message that they non-verbally convert to you and you may capture. Okay, I would give that 1 minute to do, and then we go make a little round and see what came up. All right. Any questions?
No.
Okay, and there we go.
Everyone is like a statue.
Okay, that was about a minute. I would like to start. Peter, I give you the honor to start. We have nobody looking at you, but could you say what you captured from William?
From William, I had a sense that he was enjoying the process of almost trying to keep the straight face, and then that joy hit him, and he kind of made a smile with a little bit of a eyebrow coming up, and that he noticed how much he was enjoying it, how much he enjoyed breaking it as well. So kind of like both of those.
Okay. William, could you feedback if there's anything that you recognize, or could you give us more information? What was your state of being?
Well, I was a little bit in things that started. I actually had some questions. I wasn't quite sure what we were supposed to do, or whether we were supposed to somehow, through our facial expressions, try to relate what we were feeling, or just so. Essentially, my default was stone face.
Okay.
But you're right. So I was playing with it, but I was enjoying the playing, and I was also kind of like enjoying that. I feel emotionally safe enough that if I wasn't doing it so right, that no big deal.
Oh, beautiful. And for Peter, that's some great feedback, no? What you captured from him.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. Nice, huh?
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, William, about me.
Well, you were fairly, impassive as well. But I just got, not just from observing you there, but a lot of excitement, a lot of reaching out. I feel that, there's a lot of creativity behind there, and you're looking to see and to bounce it off people, and at the same time, wanting to be receptive as well.
Oh, wonderful. Yeah, I was so much enjoying looking at Varsha and indeed having these creative processes in my mind. So you captured that perfectly. Really great. Thank you. Thank you. Let me see. I looked at Varsha. Okay. I got that you indeed enjoyed that idea, and you were even looking at all of a sudden in one moment and flabbergasted, like, whoa, what's this going, and have this little giggling in yourself of wow, that's never done before or something.
Thanks.
Yeah, was that what you felt?
Bob was entertaining me, so I was entertained.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah.
What you captured from Bob? Yeah.
Like I was looking at everyone, and for a moment, everyone was like a statue. So there's like that was a different experience, seeing everyone like a statue. Like still, everyone had the same posture, same position without moving. So I've never seen like this. Like everyone like a statue with open eyes. So that was a different feeling. And looking at Bob reminded me there's a comic character in India. It's called Chacha Chaudhary. Chacha means uncle. In Hindi, it is called uncle. Chacha means uncle, and Chaudhary is the name of the uncle. So Uncle Chaudhary. So his appearance also like Bob. So when he started moving like this, it reminded me about him. So.
And what did you think that Bob felt? What was he busy with, except for the moving?
I don't know. Maybe he was finding it difficult to stay still, I think. I felt.
Let's see what Bob says.
Yeah.
What a delightful way to begin our time. And I was, when my wife and I have dinner together every night, we sit across from each other, and I do this when I'm happy.
So you felt happy, and yeah, okay, great.
Yeah, it was very nice to see Bob in a different manner. He's always like still and just talking, and so he was very different today. Mr. Bob.
All right.
Bob.
Bob, what did you capture of Edwin?
I watched Edwin, and I have heard from Edwin over the past several weeks. He tells me that he's very busy. And today, as I watched him, I saw a still, calm, deep pond Edwin floating on the efforts of others and being the shepherd of this group, delighting in what he has gotten started, and is enjoying the energy of the group.
All right, let's go to Edwin.
Yeah, first I saw Varsha, I didn't know where, I was feeling a little confused. Who do I look at? Because I didn't have an assignment of who to look at, so I felt a little left out. So I really listened to.
Yeah.
And I thought, then I saw Varsha, and I saw she was laughing, and I was feeling, kind of going in. I had to kind of control myself to keep from going into humorous laughter. And then I kind of shifted to Bob, because he's kind of in the window next to me. And yeah, I just was sort of enjoying his presence. So just, so just kind of enjoying the presence.
All right. Yeah, I realize now that I could have asked you to just think of Peter and see if you capture something like that, even because he is here with us, even though not visible, but you could have captured something, and I didn't think of that at that moment. Yeah.
Well, I could say that when I hear Peter's voice,
yeah.
So I do hear a real curiosity and a sort of a sense of commitment. He feels curious and feels committed. Is what I'm getting.
Okay, let's go to Peter. Peter, do you want to respond to that?
Yeah, it's pretty accurate that I'm curious and committed. That right now I'm feeling more curious than committed almost. It's just it's curious, because for me curiosity is commitment. So you're interpreting that right. It's curiosity that's inspiring commitment. So, but yeah, so I enjoy that. Thank you very much.
Oh, very nice. Now this exercise is really important for you to see how much can I have my attention with someone else, and how much interpretation do I give my eyes, or give my ideas about the person. Can I step away from that? Like for Varsha, can I step away from the image that reminded you of something? And even though, and that's also why I did not ask anybody to do something, because any movement would give a memory of you, of something. So the more quiet, the more deeper the connection could go. And indeed, even when we don't see people over the phone, we can get a feel how they are doing, how they're feeling. So I hope you like this and that it may help you also to do that for yourself in between.
Yeah, I liked it as an exercise. It felt quite intimate too. It felt sort of intimate, and felt really like a nice exercise for connecting to feelings.
Yeah, I do this when I work with couples often, just because to have that intimacy, and can they really sense each other deeper than on the superfluous, how was your day? Yeah.
I did this same activity in my dance performance.
Yeah.
So, I did a dance. I'm just describing it so you get a context. So I did a storytelling of different emotions, and I held a lamp, just one lamp, burning lamp, the earthen lamp, and I had done this in the dark, and I had done this so that people can experience the heightened emotions, so that all the emotions get stirred, and after that, I passed this lamp to the audience. Like I had made some pre-arrangement where I told audience to sit in a semicircle, like not in a window fashion, like one behind. So before I started the performance, I told them to sit in semicircle, and I gave the instruction that after I finish my dance, I would pass the lamp to one person, and that person would pass lamp to another person, like next person. So after I did the dance on emotions, I went to the audience and I passed that lamp to the first audience, and I told that person, when you pass the lamp, just hold the lamp in front of that person's face and just look at look at the eyes of that person without any judgment, just like now, like you did. And then you pass the lamp to another person. So that was a chance or experience to give an audience to take a pause in judging others and see them through the eyes of empathy.
Right. Beautiful. Yeah. So it's really an exercise that you created, and that even to make a pause when you look at a person's face, to not straight away judge. Wow.
Yeah.
That implementing in a performance. Wow. Great. All right. Well, I hand it back to Edwin.
Okay. Thanks for that exercise. Very delightful and insightful too. So we have our next to answer the question, our on arrival question. If you just want to go down, you didn't get a chance to write something, but I know you'd thought about it, Celia.
I mentioned that because I experienced a high anxiety and fear when I couldn't hear a person, or when I didn't capture the words, or when I thought, oh my gosh, I have to give it totally back, and I missed part of it. And it's a different kind of listening than that I normally do. I try normally to give the gist back and the emotion, and now I have to really capture the thoughts and the things that were discussed. So it was not per se about an underlying thing. It was really just give back what the person says.
So you feel a bit of anxiety because you can't just reflect back the essence. You're reflecting kind of more of what everything that they said, and that creates some anxiety.
Yes, it did sometimes, yeah. And I'm glad that Peter says he has also a microphone, so that helps fabulous. And English is still my second language, so that's was another thing for me.
So the anxiety too from not having a native speaker.
Some words still that I think that I have to Google, would need to Google.
Okay. Did you want to go, Varsha?
No, I just want to say, Celia, your voice is so clear. I find it so easy to hear you now. I really had a hard time earlier to listen to you. Yeah.
Yeah, you may not have seen this, but
she showed it before you came in to everybody, her new microphone.
That's exactly the same one as me. So, yeah.
You both got them.
It's so clear, Peter. It's so clear.
Okay, yeah, so our question was, what have you experienced while listening to others in this circle? And can you recall and share some feelings that came up? So for me, it's really a wide variety of feelings. There's all kinds of different feelings that come up. And sometimes it's a sense of satisfaction. Like when I really hear someone and I've reflected it back and it feels very clear with the reflection, I feel like, I did it. I feel good about this. And I really kind of nailed that. So I feel a sense of satisfaction. And there's also a sense of when I'm hearing someone that I feel like a deep sense of connection, and like I'm growing and learning sort of through this connection. It's like I'm really learning as a human being about life and about relating. And there's sort of a richness and a feeling of growth. And I'm moving towards almost like a truth, like a universal truth of some sort, kind of moving towards that. And sometimes there's anxiety that I feel like I'm not listening well. Like I can feel like I'm not quite getting it. There's kind of a cloud feeling in front of what I'm reflecting. And then I sometimes have these self-judgments like, oh, my listening is getting worse instead of better over time. So those are a few things. Varsha, you're next up.
Yeah. Initially, when this training started, different people had different ideas. But I started connecting with few people, specifically Celia, over the last 2 trainings. I could relate to her. I don't remember exactly what. I have to refer the notes. But I I saw myself relating to her experiences, opinions, and sometimes understanding, like we share similar understanding. Also, like Peter and other people, sometimes I feel connected, and it also helps me to stir up some knowledge I have about empathy, or some things that relate to it. I sometimes find hope, and sometimes it makes me realize how I'm going to carry this forward, and how I'm going to keep the flame burning, and how I'm going to really practically do it and bring a change. So it's very overwhelming. I don't know where I'm going to land. And I also feel blessed that I live in this age of internet world. If internet would not have been there, I don't know what I would have done, like to help myself. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you. Bill?
Well, I was saying that what I feel in doing it with this group and also with our other group and also at some functions in public is that we have like a community or communication gene, as a matter of fact. There was a book called The Naked Ape in the 60s that said we're a thin veneer of civilization, underlying the savage. But really before that, for 3 of the 4 million years, we were not the top predator. So when we saw another human being, we expected to work together because otherwise neither of us would survive. So I think that is actually the stronger imperative, and just seeing how easily community is formed gives that more strength. And then the other thing I said was that I was interested, like with Varsha taking empathy into her ways and just seeing the ways it can be used are really exciting.
Thank you.
Okay, Bob, you're next here.
As we go week to week, and as we share with each other, it is amazing and wondrous how I am seeing more of myself and more of each of you as friends and members of this wonderful group. And it's a very joyful experience. I'm very pleased about this.
Mm-hmm.
Peter, Bill is crying.
No, I'm just getting old.
Okay.
I have the empathy there. I have the emotion. I would not cry.
Okay, Peter?
For me, I'm just kind of I'm sitting with how when I'm in community, in any form of community, how the outside problems or the outside issues, they kind of melt away into this kind of it's just being in a good place. It's like a little vacation from stress and from everything else. So it's nice to have it, and it's nice to know that that's something I can hold within myself and access it when I need. So it's nice to connect with people and to remind myself that I both have that power, and by sharing that with people, I have their power too, in a way to just deal with everything.
Okay, so kind of listening is like a vacation.
Yeah, it's accurate.
Okay, then let's thanks everyone for that, and we want to move on to our chapter. So we did chapters 6 and 7, and wanted to share our slideshow. And let me bring that up, our slides, which is just actually, how do I share this? Actually, I had a question here. So here's the slides that I was setting up. And what do you think that the summary, like if you just had a sentence summary, I thought it was communication without words, how to convey good listening without words.
Just observing.
What?
Just observing? So
just observing. Is there anything else that was, what was the essence of the summary, would you say?
Paying attention to body language, or reading the body language, or interpreting the body language.
Okay, then let me share that. Let's move that into presentation view. So that was it. So we had chapter 6. Oh, actually, here we go. We had chapter 6 and chapter 7 was what we were reading for meeting 4. Chapter 6 starts with a summary called Picture Without Sound, and he uses, each chapter starts with a quote. So he starts with a quote, "Never miss a good chance to shut up," which is by Will Rogers. And the summary for the chapter, Picture Without Sound, is communication without words, how to convey good listening without words, just observing, reading body language. We're going to go back to try this in a minute. And then we have chapter 7, which is asking questions. The important thing is not to stop questioning. Curiosity has its own reason for existence. And in this chapter, it's the role of question and the concept of open and closed questions. So that was the basic outline. And we want to go now into doing the empathic listening for about an hour, a little bit more than an hour before we do the exercise. Who would like to start and select who you'd like to speak to? And who would like to do the timekeeping for 5 minutes? Does anyone have a clock handy? Bob, looks like you grabbed it. Okay. Who would like to start? And, you can talk about the chapters or really anything that comes up that you feel you need to talk about. So that's okay. And Celia?
Yeah. I would like to start, and I would like to talk to Varsha.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and why I would like to start, because I wanted to address straight away the never miss a good chance to shut up. And,
it's very hard for me.
That's too hard for you. All right, let's start there. Okay. Now the shutting up can be, I would say, as well verbally as non-verbally, because you also can interrupt non-verbally someone's talking, and a little later he talks about that, that you really have to have your attention. But what I wanted to really mention was the good chance. Now, I think it is a little meant jokingly, but I took the good chance as a real important message. Namely, whenever you are aware that you hear a roadblock or you use a roadblock, so you hear it from yourself that you use it, you can straight away be aware of it and correct yourself, or indeed zip it. And the good chance there is that you get this awesome moment of awareness, and it opens your heart wide and big.
Yes. So I have to reflect back, right?
Yep.
Yes.
So, you said that never miss a chance to shut up. You were reflecting on that. What do you say? That quote.
Yeah.
So you said that there's a verbal and non-verbal way of interrupting. So in a non-verbal way, you can interrupt, and you one also need to have attention when someone is talking. In that chapter number 6, right? It's mentioned that there's a good chance. And it was said jokingly, but you felt that it's a very important point, very important for it's a very important message. because when you get a good chance, that chance can be taken as self-awareness, and that's self-awareness could be that you are aware that you are creating a roadblock when someone else is communicating.
Yeah.
So you can take you can utilize that one chance of being aware and improve, make a correction in your roadblock, and just realize, just the moment of that realization, and is awesome moment of awareness. So you describe awareness as an awesome moment.
Yes, a good chance. Thank you. All right.
Oh, my turn?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't.
Yeah, I could go the whole book.
To shut up. I don't have anything right now.
Oh.
Press.
Okay.
You can just, were you just speaking? Is it your turn, Varsha?
Yeah, it's my turn, but...
Oh, you can just speak to someone and just say, I have nothing to say. They'll reflect that back. And
yeah, Bob, I have nothing to say. So I will take a moment to keep my mouth shut.
Okay, Varsha, I hear you saying you have nothing to say, and you'll be quiet and keep your mouth shut. A good chance to shut up.
Yes, I feel heard.
Peter, would you please listen to me?
I already am.
Okay. This past week, I had an experience that Chapter 6 talks about. I had lunch with a dear old friend, and he did all the talking. And it was a treat for me to sit and look at his face and express my eyebrows and my smile and my eyes and tell him that I am listening to him without saying anything. And he just kept pouring more and more out. I heard things about him from his youth, about his parents, his grandparents. He told me so much, and I was just sitting there listening, not saying boo.
So could I reflect back?
Sure.
So it seems like you're kind of filled with, I'm getting a sense you're kind of filled with joy over the fact that you were able to notice how well you were listening to your friend while you were just sitting there and having lunch with him. And that it kind of tickled you almost to the point where you were really noticing your facial expressions and how you were just drawing in all this information, and it just was a very pleasant experience for you.
Very much so. I feel fully heard.
All right, thank you. All right.
The question says, something you don't know about me is that I am blank. And so, Peter, do you want to try these 20 question things?
Which ones?
On page 24.
24. Okay.
So the quote says, "One thing that you should know about me is that I am on a journey."
So one thing that we should know about you is that you are on a journey.
Yes. And I think you're supposed to ask me yes or no questions.
Oh, we're doing that now?
We're going to do that later, Bob.
Okay.
Right? We're going to start with just empathic listening to get us all kind of connected with each other. And then I was going to maybe do about an hour, 40 more minutes, and then jump into it like an exercise, just to talk about the chapter first. So,
pardon me, I was so excited about that question. So, what is beginning to emerge as a theme in this class, in this group, is the fullness of living that comes from listening.
So you're really experiencing that fullness of of life that's coming to you just from listening, and it's happening in this group, all the time for you.
Yes, it is indeed. And I feel fully heard. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Okay, Bill, could you listen to me?
Sure, glad to.
So I'm remembering actually when I graduated social work school, and everyone had a saying, you know, that they were supposed to make up for themselves, like a piece of advice to carry forward to their careers. And one of the, I made up one, and I've realized like over the years how much of it I've not followed that advice. And I made an acronym. I did SALL. I did shut up and listen. That was my acronym. And I really don't, particularly, not so much with my clients, but with my coworkers, there's this anxiety almost of like, I want to fill the space. And I do it so much that, like, you know, my judgment of myself is that, oh, I become the annoying one that has to fill the space, you know? And, you know, it's not always bad, but it's not always how I want to present myself in the world either. So I'm kind of considering the power of shutting up, like really just taking a good long shut up and, you know, like letting the life happen around me without feeling like I have to control it.
Okay. So are you ready for me to reflect?
Yes, please.
Okay. So you were talking about when you graduated, everybody in your class made up a sort of a slogan for themselves, and yours was an acronym called SALL, shut up and listen. And so you find yourself in, and I grew up in New York, so I have to empathize. I know I'm getting a little off their track, but I hear you, brother. And you feel you have to, you know, fill up the space, and that creates anxiety. And yet you feel that, I think you sense that if you just sort of were a little bit more serene and observant, that you could then, you know, craft your responses and your communications more artfully. And it almost feels like once as your skill grows, the anxiety would be less, because I feel that your focus and clarity would be more.
True.
Okay.
That's accurate. And also, I'm realizing that sense of just sitting with whatever anxiety I'm feeling instead of trying to jump ahead of it. Like essentially not stepping all over myself as I'm listening. Because that's it. You know, it's very common for me to almost want to finish someone else's sentences, or someone goes to reach for a marker to write on the whiteboard at work, and I'll try to grab it and hand it to them. And, you know, and that doesn't work for listening. That's not actually being present. That's me trying to fix something. And I can kind of imply what they want, but I haven't heard enough of it to really get it right. So, yeah.
So what I hear is that you're kind of hearing the wisdom, or feeling the wisdom of having more patience with yourself, and really waiting to see completely what the other person is saying, you know, and let's say, and you're trying actually, as we call it in special ed, frustration tolerance. You're exposing yourself to that and sitting with the frustration and realizing that you don't have to be overwhelmed by it, and then you gain more mastery over it. That's generally the way it happens. Is that somewhat of your process?
Yeah, that's somewhat accurate.
Okay, so I'm missing some things though.
Just the idea, it's beyond frustration tolerance to the point where it's actually become a strategy. So I'm realizing it's, even when I'm not frustrated, I've gotten used to doing that. You know, so I'm just kind of reveling in that, like how it could become a shortcut that I really have to undo if I want to really hear people.
Mm-hmm. So when you say you're doing that, you're practicing that kind of self-awareness?
Yes.
Okay.
All right. I feel heard. Thank you very much.
Okay. I know Bob had something to say. I don't know what.
That was a 1 minute sign.
Okay. Okay, great.
So that's
okay. Oh, right. Okay. Gotcha. Okay. So, Edwin?
Mm-hmm.
I don't have a lot, as I'm part of this group and also another group, and I'm excited about getting sharing the listening circle with everybody, the empathy listening circle with everybody, with other people. And I'm sort of excited in bringing it out to the streets. And I see that as feedback. I made that rubric last, and by the way, I want to say hi to Ingrid, if you're listening, Ingrid. Ingrid was a person who watched the webcast and asked me for. So we're talking about some themes, and we talked about sort of the feeling of being heard, the feeling of in a class, an empathy class, you would learn something, you would get something that you're expected to get out of it. And last night, Lou Zwire, one of the longtime empathy members, talked about mutuality, which when I reflected upon last week and the last half, I didn't do so well with. But again, I'm feeling that, I'm ready to improve and move on. So that's what
Okay, so what I'm hearing, you're ready to improve and move on, as well as take empathy circles to the streets,
right?
And have some topics there to talk about with people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
That's all you heard.
Okay. And I guess I'll speak to Celia.
Okay.
Okay, so the one thing is when what came up for me was when you said that the way of reflecting here that we're doing, it's about capturing sort of the full what they're saying, right? You got to remember all the different components. Right. And it's actually, I don't really see that. I see that what's the important thing is that the person who's speaking feels heard. So actually, if somebody says something and you just grunt, and the person says, I feel heard, then that's kind of that's the core test here. Does the person who's speaking feel heard or not?
Okay, so for you, it is when you heard me saying that reflecting, one should capture everything that one says. That is not for you that way. For you, it is like even if someone just grumbles or bumbles, and someone feels heard, it's about that. It's about that they feel heard, and not about what they all exactly said.
Yeah, and as a speaker, it's sort of your responsibility to make sure that you feel heard to your satisfaction. So if, like you have a lot of experience with empathic listening and being able to reflect the deeper needs and feelings and perhaps the meaning and the essence. So, if you're feeling more comfortable, you feel that works to have the person feel heard, then, go ahead and do that. So.
Do it that way. So like, even if a person should have to be responsible for themselves when they're talking, if you are a listener and you feel more, for me, Celia, or the way to do it the way I am used to, then I should be able to do that.
And the ultimate test is if the person who's speaking says, yeah, I feel understood and heard. Yeah. So that's really what it's all about, is that person feeling heard and understood.
Right.
And even when we look at this, it's like with the chapter is even just gazing into the eyes of someone, like it sounds like they were doing with Bob, his friend. They're gazing. Bob's just gazing into their eyes, and they're feeling heard. They're feeling heard, and it's just all this coming out of them because they just felt heard. He didn't even say anything. It sounds like he just had that sense of open presence. So that person seems like they were really feeling heard, which is what we're really trying to accomplish.
Right, and it does not need to be that whole story that someone has told. It just... even nothing, even just being there and staring at them, or at least that a person can continue to talk. That is the main thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and then the other thing that comes to mind is a lot of times we say something and the person is reflecting and not really getting what we're saying totally. You know, maybe they're getting 50%, and just we say that we just kind of acquiesce, say, "Oh, okay, you got me," just because the time is up, or you know, you just don't want to go into the depths of what wasn't gotten. But you can just keep going as a speaker until you feel heard or the time's up. But yeah,
Right.
so you know, you can keep pushing, say, no, that's not quite it. What I'm really saying is this. And that's really what we're trying to learn here, is how can we listen to people for them to feel heard. 1 minute. So yeah.
Right. And even if it's the minute is up, that is actually the only border for a person to not continue and to keep on saying, you know, actually what I mean, what I say, and take that responsibility, and the other person helps them.
Yeah, I feel heard. Thank you.
Welcome. Okay, it's my turn again. Bob, would you listen to me?
I will.
Okay, let me see. There was something. Oh yeah, it says with nodding and yes and and the vocalizations say, and then he says, "I hear you. I'm with you. Tell me more." Now these all three are expressions that counselors use a lot as straight words. So I think by him saying that, even though he says it is the underlying text, it may sound like you can say that too. And I think that is the danger, because these are all three actually roadblocks. They are not reflecting what the other person is saying, or not even with a oh, wow. Yeah. Because then you are busy with I hear you, I am with you, you know. It's not, oh, you are saying that. I'm not sure that makes sense, but
So what I hear you saying is that, as Miller points out, three little noises that people can make, I hear you, I'm with you, that may be something they say, but it doesn't necessarily represent true understanding and listening and hearing. So we have to be careful about these roadblocks rather than affirmations of listening.
well, what I actually meant is that if you say your underlying thought is not per se I hear you, I'm with you, but your underlying thought, your underlying message for the person should get the message. You know, you should not be sending a message. The person should get the message, I'm worthy of being listened to. My words and thoughts matter. So that is actually what you want to convey. The other person's words matter, that are worthy. And with the wow, ooh, you know, it's slightly different, but because I hear so often tell people, oh, I hear you, I'm with you, tell me more. And it sounds like here that is exactly what you should do, even though you do it with but if you take that out, then I think, and change it to you are worthy to say anything you want. That statement of you, of the listener. So changing the underlying words, the underlying thoughts, I hear you, I'm with you, with you are fully worthy of being heard. That is actually what I wanted to say.
So as the speaker offers words to the listener, rather than saying, oh, I'm with you, the underlying message should be for the listener to affirm and saying to the speaker, you are worthy to be heard, you are worthy to speak, and let me please just be that listener and reflector and affirmer of you.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Feel fully heard.
You're welcome. Varsha, would you please listen to me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. In our website, we have a toolkit section.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was Bill who said that we have a listening gene, and maybe we have a toolkit gene that if we tap into it, we can offer a variety of responses to speakers, all of which affirm the speaker and convey the message that they're being listened to accurately. So maybe there's this part of us that has this whole toolkit already there, and as we practice, we can bring to our awareness the gifts of this toolkit and use them wisely.
Okay. It was a lot for me to take all these words. I understood, but I don't have words to express clearly. I will try. So you said in our website we have a toolkit, which is like a gene pool. What you said about that?
Yes, yes.
And we can use that toolkit to educate people and use those skills. Something like that you said? I'm not very clear.
What Bill was saying earlier about a listening gene, maybe we have a toolkit gene hardwired into our real selves, and that the task of this group is to make the connection from our brain to that toolkit gene and live the skills to listen effectively.
Okay. I will still try. So, I'm sorry. One more time. I mean, I'm not able to capture all these long sentences. So, we have the ability to connect our thoughts and translate that into toolkits.
Yes, to make the connection between what we're thinking and the unconscious, subconscious power of listening tools, that we make that connection and become very, very effective listeners.
Yeah. Okay. So what I'm trying to understand, although we are saying we are still learning, but you say that we already have that ability to listen effectively, right? Like
yes.
We have that genetics in us to listen well.
Exactly right. I feel fully heard.
Okay.
What else? I've got 3 minutes here. I think I want to take time away from the group and practice being mindful and attentive in the moment. And that's what I want to do outside the group, to try to gain new skills in being mindful and attentive.
So outside of the group, you want to practice mindfulness and attention, like outside of it. You want your separate lonely time where you can reflect on all these skills, like giving attention, like paying attention and observing and all that.
Exactly right. I feel fully heard. Thank you, Varsha.
Yeah, I tried. Who do I choose? William. Bill. Why people call you Bill when your name is William?
William is more of the formal, and that's what I wrote in school, but everybody calls me Bill. Either one is fine.
Because I always get confused. Then, like when I read your name, then who's Bill? Where is Bill? So.
Yeah, no, Bill is fine, or William. And
okay.
I have a very alliterative name, so.
Oh, okay.
I'm still paying for that.
Okay. With listening, like subconsciously, consciously, I'm just thinking about, and I just wonder, why do, like, there's almost like only, I don't know how many percentage of people are even aware about that it's a necessity to listen. It's a necessity to listen to people. So they don't feel that they're not heard, they're not being heard. And that experience of not being heard leads to so many emotional diseases, or, you know, all those emotional things that volcano that goes. Like I remember, while growing up, my mother used to feel so frustrated, like if she encountered herself not being heard or not being understood, even today. So when I look back, I really feel today that my mother has always been in pain by the realization that nobody understands her, and that makes me feel very bad. And now, because I'm doing this work, I said it's so important, and how many people are really aware that you must listen to people. It's so important, and I feel like so heavy weight on my shoulder to carry this out in the world, to make awareness. Like, this is so huge. So, yeah.
Okay. The first thing I heard was, how you talked about how listening is a necessity.
Yeah.
How important it is.
Yeah.
And that you're talking about that the lack of listening or lack of feeling heard can lead to a lot of emotional and even physical illnesses.
Yeah.
And specifically, you were also talking about your experience of your mother, who could see who did not feel heard, and you saw the diseases or whatever disorders affect her mood at least.
Yeah.
And so, and then you feel, and looking at the difference between good communication or feeling heard and not feeling heard, you're also feeling a very big responsibility. There's a weight on your shoulders in order to bring it out to the world. And I sense a little bit of nervousness about it. It's a big responsibility. Am I going to do a good job?
Yeah. I feel heard.
Oh, good. Okay. All right. All right. Let's see. Peter.
All right, I'm here.
All right. Actually, I'm thinking a lot about what other people are thinking right now. I'm sort of processing all of that. I'm thinking I was a special education teacher, and again, that's sort of when I looked at my kids and the rage that they had, and this is my own anecdotal, take on it, but the rage did not come from a rage to hurt or a rage to try to hurt somebody, but it was a rage because they weren't feeling that community and that connectiveness that I think is our birthright. Mm. So I think that a lot of times when you look at the world's problems, these people are angry not because they're monsters or they're this or they're that, but they're going through the very human pain of not feeling heard and feeling invisible. And that engenders the rage. So therefore, a lot of what we do, which is basically, hit the rageful people, is not the right way to stop that. So I'm struggling with that. I don't necessarily have an answer, but it's a nice struggle.
Yeah. So what I'm hearing from you is that you're using your lifetime of experience to kind of really reflect on when you've seen that rage and that almost like uncontrollability, and how you've really seen it as an attempt to communicate or an attempt to express oneself or an attempt to get one's needs met in some way. Mm-hmm. And how it's not, there's always something like behind the rage almost. There's always this real intense craving to connect or to be seen or heard for what's actually happening in that moment.
Yes, thank you. I'm sorry, go ahead, Peter.
No, I'm sorry, was that accurate?
Yeah, very accurate. Thank you. I feel heard.
All right. Well, thank you. Anything else?
There are things. It's interesting. I'm feeling there was a little something else, but it's okay. It's not that I don't feel heard. It's just that I haven't formed my thoughts, and so therefore we'll move on. And then if it comes up again later, I'll say it. Thank you, Peter.
Well, thank you. Edwin, could you listen to me?
Yep.
So I am realizing how, you know what, how jarring it is for me not to have this damn camera. You know, and I would have rather I had the blurry camera I had before I broke it, trying to fix it. And I'm realizing how that's like a parallel process to what I do in life. You know, it's not perfect what I'm saying, so I keep twisting it until the damn thing breaks. You know, I should have shut up and listened and not played with my camera. So I'm realizing how disconnecting it is. Now that I got used to having the camera, you know, I'd rather be sitting fidgeting with the camera instead of, you know, not having that thing. And I'm realizing how intense I'm feeling about it. Like, damn it.
Mm-hmm. So you're just feeling like, damn it, why were you kept tweaking the camera? If you just would have left it alone, you know, even though it was blurry, at least you'd have the camera, and you're really missing the visuals. And it sort of parallels to what you do in your life in general. You keep tweaking things and messing with it instead of just kind of leaving it alone. And it's just causing some real frustration and irritation is just arising from the whole thing. And maybe you're even beating yourself up a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, yes. I'm catching myself before the beating up part, but it's there. So I'm just... So
it's not quite beating yourself up. It's before it. It's not.
But it's close, you know. So I'm just appreciating sharing that with you guys and having the chance to kind of reflect on it in a way that works.
Mm-hmm. So you appreciate that you can share those feelings with us, and just appreciating that you have us here to be able to share that with, and just for yourself, that you can actually kind of examine this for yourself.
Yeah, I feel heard. I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see. I guess we have. I'll go. Varsha, speak to you.
Yes, sure.
Okay. What? Yeah, I appreciated the kind of the personal storytelling you had about your mother. So by you sharing that, it kind of brought up memories, you know, of my own childhood of not feeling heard necessarily. So, I appreciated you kind of sharing the personal stories. Yeah.
So you appreciate that I shared my personal story about my mom of feeling frustrated of not being heard.
Yeah, because I had experiences kind of growing up where I just didn't feel heard.
Yes.
You know, it's not like, you know, mean or anything family, but just you're not kind of feeling heard. And I have understanding for why that was, you know, you know, it's my parents having gone through World War II and, you know, kind of all the trauma, you know, post-traumatic stress and all that they went through. So I have understanding for it, but, you know, I am affected by that.
So my experience to your past experience of not being heard, and that could be because your parents went for World War I and after World War II. So, and after they returned, they were in that PTSD, you call it, post-traumatic stress disorder, right?
Mm-hmm.
But you understand their situation, but not being heard makes you feel it affects you, right? When you identify yourself as not being heard, that affects you, right?
Yeah, that's I think one reason I like empathic listening is I kind of really feel heard. You know, it's like I don't have to kind of fight for attention. I just know I'm going to be heard, so I kind of appreciate sort of the process and the fairness. You know, everybody gets kind of equal time, so I have a sense of the fairness. There's a quality of fairness there.
So you don't like to fight for being yourself heard. It should be like kind of right that people should understand that you should like everyone should listen to people, and you have a sense of fairness. So when you don't feel heard and when you identify yourself that you have to fight for yourself of being heard, you feel that it's not justice. It's injustice. It's not fair, right?
Yeah, it's more that, yeah, there's a fairness, and it's more just about the feeling, right? You know, when everybody feels heard and seen and acknowledged,
Yeah.
there's a sense of ease, and there's a relaxation, there's an openness. It's just a pleasant, you know, it's a more positive experience.
Yeah, feeling, being heard and being listened to is a positive experience, and you feel eased. Actually, that's what humans want. That's what humans are designed for.
Yeah, we have as our natural capacity. So,
need to be heard and need to be listened.
Yeah, and it's maybe it's like good. Oh, it's good oil. Like, you know, when you have a car, you put good, you know, material into it, and it runs better. So you put listening into, you know, the human, and they run better.
Yeah, it's like a fertilizer, you mean.
Or fertilizer too. That's another metaphor. I'm open to all kinds of metaphors. Yeah. So I feel
you can function well, otherwise you will end up with emotional diseases like my mom.
So I feel heard. I did want to do an exercise. I think we all went twice now, right?
Yes.
Everybody had a chance to go twice.
Yes.
And we did want to do the exercise in the book, and I can't even remember really what it was. What was it? It was
20 questions, the yes or no.
Right.
Then the open-ended question.
Page 24.
Yeah, so it was one person will speak for 3 minutes, and then we can go around and everybody kind of guess one question of, I think, what is it? What was it?
20 questions. We try to narrow the focus of the broad statement by asking closed-end questions.
Activity time.
Oh, on page 20, Edwin?
Yeah, 20. Yeah, because they had the what was like growing up and practice some possible topics. Okay, so who would like to go first? You've got 3 minutes, and then we'll have 20 questions kind of go around the group. Does that sound like a way to approach it?
Are we doing the page 2021 activity or the page 24-25 activity?
21.
Okay.
What was it growing up in my home? Oh, yeah. So you get to speak. In a sense, yeah, okay. And so you just share what it was growing up. We kind of actually, we talked a little bit about that. Varsha and I just did. So,
Yeah.
So what are the questions? Like, discuss the experience. What was it like growing up in my home? And then each person, the listener, is to show they are listening, interested, understanding. Oh, but this one is just without using any words. So, okay, that's what it is. Right. So one person will speak for 3 minutes. There'll be no reflection. And then on the topic of what was it like growing up, and everybody's just going to pay attention, right? Just show awareness without any kind of reflection. Does that sound like a doable? Celia, do you have a thought on that?
Yeah, it's yeah, that's great too. And then maybe it follows up as what you said. Only even a grunt is needed for a person to be heard. Okay, and see if we can keep our attention to the 3 minutes of the person is speaking.
Okay. And the question is, what was it? Was it like
growing up in my home?
What was it like growing up in my home? So, who would like to start? And we'll just listen.
Okay, I want to start again because also I thought about the connection with how come I'm so drawn to this listening work, and what was my start that I yearn for being heard, and it is not per se like grown up in my home, but I was a lot in hospitals in my baby and young and toddler and young person's years, and every time when I have a moment that I have an upset or whatever, I can trace it back to not being heard. And I can even remember situations, and I was even a baby, like you see these men and women in white coats standing around your crib, and you have no clue what they say. You have no clue what they're thinking, but they talk about you, and they squeeze you, and they do with you, and it's so scary. It's like the alien abductions stories, you know. So it's I think that was one. What are they saying? What do they want from me? You know, what am I doing wrong or not? And then every time, because that is a repeated process, that worked further and further, and even things like being upset with even things from the medical world, and I think, where does that come from? And well, I once wasn't heard. Oh yeah, I remember. Okay, can I transmute it? Can I transform it to let go and learn from it? But I think also to capture words, that listening the words was one of the main things. And even now that I just talked to you guys all, that I had a hard time and felt that fear. Now that I'm saying this, I realize, whoa, there you had it again. I felt the fear, and probably I won't understand what you're saying. And but that's also what I became, you know, a communication trainer. We often study and learn something that we need to master, that we want to master ourselves. And I'm still not done. I don't know if my 3 minutes are up, but I'm not done with this process of learning, and but getting more and more enthusiastic that I will, you know, get the gist of it and break through something, and that through my experience I can help others. Yeah. All right. How much time do I still have? I did not look on the 3 seconds. 1, 2, 3. Thank you. All right.
Okay, the next person. Bob?
On page 21, it gives us 3 possible statements to talk about. Can I choose a different one?
Oh, sure.
My favorite or dream vacation. And I would say up until about 5 years ago, regular life wasn't as much fun as vacation life. But with the help of my spiritual friend, I'm finding that every moment can be a vacation happy kind of a moment. In my old mindset, I would say vacation means not having to cook, not having to do dishes, not having to do laundry, not having to pull weeds in the backyard. And now, pulling weeds in the backyard and doing dishes and cooking and cleaning up are occasions for happiness. And whether my wife and I are off on a trip, or whether we're home in the day-to-day routine with a mindfulness of this is all there is, this is everything that is, real life and vacation life are one and the same, and are part of this potential for joy, as Bill says, that is our birthright. So living in the moment and extracting all that is in the moment and being aware of it and having one's heart filled with that moment joy is really what it's all about. So, fini.
Okay, I will go then. And what was it like growing up? I grew up in Sacramento, and my parents were refugees from World War II, so they'd come over after the war. So they'd gone through some pretty horrible, kind of experiences there, which, they kind of talked about, but I didn't know, I didn't really know that much about. And so for me, it was actually, it was pretty, childhood was not bad. Growing up in Sacramento, we'd like to go with my friends, riding our bikes around the city, going to the river, going fishing, kind of hanging out with friends, doing interesting things. We got into different activities. Like as I got older, well, when I was younger, we found some little crows in the nest, and we took them home and we raised crows. So I had a pet crow, and then, the crow, you have to feed it every day. I mean, like several times a day, and it was school time, so I took the crow and I had it in my locker in school. So between classes, I'd open up my locker and kind of feed the crow some food, and then close the locker. So anyway, then I'd have this kind of crow, that would come later. It was like trained, that would come and land on my hand. And then later I got interested in falconry, where you raise the falcons and you can go hunting. Even though I never got one, I did start, kind of learning about that. And, just did gardening, enjoyed gardening, and kind of caught some bees, and, had a beehive, so you catch the swarm. So just kind of had it wasn't a bad, it was a kind of easygoing childhood. And it was very independent. So I was very kind of on my own. It's like nowadays, I guess kids, they keep, I don't know what they do with kids. I don't have any, but, they keep them in the house and, keep an eye on them. Like we were like out everywhere. I mean, we were like all over town on our bikes and stuff. And so very independent, off doing things. And so very much kind of in my own, my own world is like an only child until 11, so I was very kind of self-contained. And so I kind of have this wonder, like, why is it that I got interested in empathy? And one thing as a child, like as a teenager, I started getting in it was the 60s and the generation gap kind of happened. So sort of a distance happened between me and my folks. They were kind of conservative. I got more, got kept caught up in the times of the 60s more, even though I wasn't like a hippie or something. But I did end up, eventually taking off and traveling, just kind of doing adventure kind of stuff. So I was kind of really liked the adventures and but I would say that in terms of feeling heard, I just never really had like, deep kind of, connected conversations and connection with the parents. It was just more kind of me off in my own, doing my own thing with my friends. So maybe a bit self-absorbed, self-centered. So, just kind of wondering about time. Just seems like
talking forever.
It just, I guess I have more time, so we're not.
Sorry. I have.
Yeah. So it was just kind of that adventure, with my friends. We'd go fishing all the time down to the American River. We'd go backpacking in the mountains. After high school, I kind of was bored with school, so I graduated early in 3 years instead of 4. And the first thing I did is I took off on a 3-month backpacking trip to the Sierra Nevadas, so kind of going for adventures. And then while I was out in the mountains, somebody picked me up when I was doing some hitchhiking, asked me if I was interested in a job, and I got a job in a gold mine. So working in the gold mine, and later I traveled, fruit picking, and spent 10 years traveling around the world. So I always had this kind of sense of adventure, and so yeah. And I'm not quite sure where it ties in with the listening. I guess it's again just not having had that listening connection. So went with my family. Okay, I feel heard. Thanks.
All right, guys, can I go next?
Sure.
All right, so I want to talk about my favorite dream vacation. So I'm actually happy to talk about vacation because in reality, I've never had a vacation in my adult life. Like I remember the vacations I had as a kid. We went to Disney World and in Orlando. It's the big trip from New York City. It's 19 hours straight, and I'm remembering my dad driving back up actually in one shot, like only stopping for gas, not even stopping for the bathroom. So, and that was it. But now, I find myself just looking all over I find myself captured on all these, sites that show homes all over the country. I go on Zillow and I just look all over Hawaii. And I look on every single island and I look at the homes and I go, wow, I really got to go visit there. And I just, it hits me the worst in the winter in New York City because you can't really do anything outside, So I'm kind of just sitting here and thinking about that dream vacation of going on, doing that cruise that goes to every main island and to go back and forth, to go and see, tropical trees and bugs and the ocean and essentially, being a minority, as Staten Island, I'm part of the majority here, but kind of feeling out of place, but still being in some place that's comfortable because it's still America, but it's not. It's America, but culturally there's a lot of differences. It's kind of like how I felt. I did a few conferences out in California, and I felt so out of place even when I went out to California. But I'm really wanting to push myself more and more. And maybe it's starting, I'm realizing I'm starting to get even more and more curious about, what it would look like if I traveled the world a little bit. I've saved up a lot of vacation time at work where, I'm going to hit the maximum soon. So what do I do with that vacation time? Sitting on my computer playing video games all day is nice, but even I'm moving away from that in my life. I've reached a point where I've kind of outgrown that. And just exploring the world and seeing, what matters to me and what doesn't. And, maybe there's someplace other than New York City I want to live in the future. I don't even know because I've never really been to many other places. So, yeah, I guess I'm complete. There's not really much else I could say.
So we got Bill or Varsha, right?
Mm-hmm. Right. You want to go, Varsha, or you want me to go? Oh, you're not, Varsha's not, your sound's not on, Varsha.
Bill, you can go because I'm still thinking what to talk about.
Okay, sure. Sure, I'll talk about my childhood. So I had somewhat the same kind of childhood as Edwin. Although I grew up in a different place. I grew up on Long Island and around New York City. But I was riding my bikes everywhere and going out and walking out on, I love the water. I was getting out on the water anytime I can. Even if it was climbing out on the sewer pipe that emptied into into the bay. I actually, right there there's a literary reference there. Where I lived was right near where F. Scott Fitzgerald had the Great Gatsby. I lived the park my community park was right across from or in Little Neck where supposedly the Great Gatsby had his house. So that was sort of like interesting. I always remembered there was, before they cleaned it up, they'd done a nice job of cleaning that swampy area up. But it was a place where there's a dump. And then in the Great Gatsby, there's this discarded optometrist sign, Dr. T.J. Eckelberg. And it's just this sign that's just rotting there and stuff like that. So, so as a child, I loved nature, but in living in New York, nature was pretty despoiled. There were a couple of times when you would see sewage in the bay and things like that. And so it's really great when I go back to see how they cleaned it up. There are ospreys coming back. My buddy was kayaking, said he saw a green turtle in Long Island Sound, if you can believe that. And so, and even though, you'd go there and you'd see the oil slick or the tire or something like that, there was nature. You felt you were in it, and somehow you felt that undercurrent or the greater reality of it, and it was still exciting and enjoyable. And that's really taken me into my adulthood, and I really enjoy it in photography and kayaking and scuba diving or just getting out in nature and observing. And one of the things that talk about listening and communication is that I've gone kayaking in Monterey Bay with the humpback whales. And being out there in a kayak, it's like, they're the landlord. We just rent. And it was amazing how well the humpbacks are communicating. I don't know how much time, but I've seen several times where they came and right near a kayak, and this is a 50-foot animal, and just at the last second, the tail or the fluke within inches of the kayak, they move it. Or they'll communicate to you by they have a 12-foot pectoral fin. Like one time I was drawing and all of a sudden I saw this pectoral fin and it was pointed right at me. And I don't know, and I knew, it's like, hey, and then I noticed some other kayaks. And what I was doing is I was kind of flanking the whale. He didn't like that. So then I circuitously went around and joined the other group. I never had a problem with him. And meanwhile, he gave us a big, oh, what a show. The people, ah! It was great. So I'm seeing how communication exists in the animal world, and it's very inspiring. And somehow I was allowed to be exposed to it, and I was granted enough independence to try to get out there on my own. So I was really happy about it, happy about my childhood. Mm-hmm. Don't let me get started about the bad things. That's it, I'm done.
Just give me a second. I just have to switch on the light. So just give me a second.
Sure.
I've been wondering, should I talk about my childhood or my dream vacation? I think I'll talk about my dream vacation. I have been a free spirit since my childhood, and I've been an explorer. And I started exploring when I was in grade 11. And even before that, when I was a kid, I used to travel. When I was in grade 3, I used to travel alone from my school to my home. Generally, people don't do that. Like in India, during like my growing years, I have not seen anyone, like any parents who would leave their children to travel alone from home to from school to home. So that is my initial experience of being free, not being afraid of. So yeah, I mean, I'm a free spirit and I enjoy traveling when I'm alone. I enjoy shopping when I'm alone. Like, no friends, because like when I'm alone, I'm just exploring, my mind is wandering, I'm thinking, I'm observing and all that. So with regards to vacation, I've been very lucky enough to have a lot of vacations, mini vacations, not necessarily going to different places, but just being in my house. So in Bombay, like around 10 years back, I had created a terrace, a mini garden on my terrace. So in Bombay, we have terrace because it's a tropical country. We don't have snow. So all the buildings have terrace. And in Bombay, it's like mini New York, but New York have all skyscrapers. But in Bombay, we have skyscrapers and small buildings. So I lived in a small building of 4 floors. So I had the opportunity to create my own mini garden on my terrace. And because I used to freelance, I used to get a lot of time, free time. So I used to go up on the terrace, lay the mat, and just lie down and observe birds, observe nature, or just look at the plants or flowers or something. Just my free time, my empty time. And I used to meditate. I used to do yoga for like really long time. So I used to spend 3 hours, 4 hours doing just nothing, like in the evening, my time, alone time. So it's very nice time. And even now, in America, I migrated like 3.5 years back, and just in January, I got my work authorization. So I didn't really have the pressure of going to work and just earn and, have that corporate like work tension or office politics or something. I've been like away from all that for 3.5 years. So I feel pretty good about it. And now because I have work authorization, I'm kind of a little shaky now. I'm going to handle all that. My vacation is going now. So yeah, that's about it, about my dream vacation. Mm-hmm. I have a dream, like, I just want to be financially free. Like, I don't want to rely on paycheck to paycheck and worry about tomorrow, what's going to happen tomorrow. I just want to be financially free, let the money keep coming on its own. And I just want to travel and do social service, like community work. That's all I want to do all my life. So I get to travel and I get to serve, and I just don't have to work for money. That's it. That's going to be my vacation. Like, yeah, that's about it.
Okay, thanks. See, maybe we could take about 10 minutes to debrief that experience. What was it like to speak with no one saying anything, just quiet, or what was it like to listen? So if you just go around and just share any insights or experience that you had. Yeah, Rob?
I am so grateful to be privileged to listen to our stories.
I also feel the same, like exciting stories. And yeah, I mean, I don't get to hear such kind of stories very often. So yeah, it's exciting. So like, yeah, it's very hard to ask more time from people and even talk. People have no time to talk.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have friends. Yeah, so.
Yeah, I liked it too very much. I liked hearing everybody's story. It was heartfelt. It was strange, actually, to talk for me so long while I see only the little images of everybody. But realizing that I just could continue, yeah, was really lovely. But I enjoyed more hearing all the in-depth stories from everybody. Thank you so much. Thank you.
You know, I realized maybe because I don't have my camera, but when I was done, I was done. And that was the longest, 30 seconds of my life, looking like, oh God, did I just freak everyone out or something? Did I say something wrong? So I realized, I started going in a different direction than I initially thought when I started talking, and I kind of felt, I felt happy that actually the option of not speaking about my childhood, I really didn't want to talk about that. And, something else had more zest for me right now. So, and just kind of thinking about what my perfect vacation, what does it mean for me in the future? It kind of went in that direction. I really appreciated that.
Yeah, I was sensing a real sense of sort of trust and ease about sharing the stories, kind of like a sense of warmth. And maybe it's from all the listening we've done before. We already have a connection. It just felt really easy and sort of sweet to hear every story. It was like, wow, it was very engaging, and not to do empathic listening, right? It's like so used to doing the empathic listening, and just to have that space and, to feel really heard without that reflection was very notable.
Yeah, I just want to say that I also enjoyed the stories. It's, it's great to you hear everybody's stories. And I have to say there's a little bit of anxiety I had in my listening right. Is my body, I think as we go on with this, we have to also kind of look at, how self-critical are we going to get? Like, is my attentive listening the same as somebody else's attentive listening? And how do we judge that and things like that? Mm. But again, what I find is that the general good feeling of the group then kind of carries you through. So yeah, I don't know that, maybe somebody's having this, but generally, people don't think I'm an axe murderer. So, so you go through, you tolerate, like, not exactly as Peter was talking about before, but you tolerate that anxiety and just, kind of trust to ride it through. Mm. Anyway.
Is there more insights about that? Pretty.
Well,
yeah.
I realized, again, I spoke about vacations, but listening to everyone was like a mini vacation almost. Mm. Like how I described before, even there was like this sense of me being where they were, like just really focused on listening. The imagery of even with Bill, he lived in a different part of New York City than me, but I know that feeling of you're in the woods, but there's a plastic bag. You know what I mean? Like, yes, and he's grown around it, and that's just, it brought me home, but a different home than I'm used to, it was lovely. Even listening to Varsha, that image of being on a beautiful terrace, covered, imagining all the plants, just being somewhere else where it's nice and tropical all the time, kind of brought me to my little special place too. So it was very sweet to hear.
Thank you.
Yeah, the vividness of all the stories, how the pictures, like I can just see Bill standing out at this pipe with going into the water. It's like I had these images of each of the stories and of where everyone is. So it becomes there's like a visual image that I'm sort of creating while I hear these stories of, yeah.
I could never imagine anyone doing kayaking next to the whale. I don't know how is it even humanly possible to do that.
The whales decide what's possible and what's not.
No, because like when the whales move then the tides are too much, right? So how can you kayak not tilt and you not fall in the water, like when whale is next to you?
To be brief, I'd be happy to talk to you about this for some other time, longer. But basically, to be brief, the whales have excellent communication. They know exactly where you are to an amazing extent. And what I learned as I was watching people, I mean, the people were the crazy ones out there, and the whales, their agenda is very simple. They want to feed, they want to feel safe, you know, and they don't want you like bumping into them. You know, so you observe certain parameters, and then they're interested in you too. They come up and they check you out as another interesting being. So that's the short way, but it's a fantastic experience.
Well, the whales is a story of listening without speaking, right? There's a sense of sensitivity to the environment and being attuned without words, which is what the chapter is about, is how do we really show our listening and our attention and our awareness without using words. And so...
Well, there's a sense also that I have that the whales use their echolocation, which humans literally don't have, but mentally we do, because we were able to kind of echolocate everyone's story. I was able to be in Varsha's, terrace. I was able to be in Bill's kayak, or, on the Long Island beach, or Edwin, when you were speaking, I could so imagine just running through the woods and going through a small city on my bike and kind of like almost like Leave It to Beaver almost,
Yeah.
A wonderful childhood. And humans have that mental capability to put ourselves into that other situation. And that's one of those strong things we're trying to do when we deeply listen.
Yeah, I was imagining being in the crib and all these white characters around. I could kind of really feel that, and just it was like
I didn't want to feel it because it felt like a horror movie.
Scary, but
Yeah.
Celia, I just wanted to put this information out there. If you want to see the little big windows, there is an option on the top right, a grid view. If you see grid view, then you can see 3 rectangles, like bigger boxes.
Yeah, I see. I have figured it out. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, so that was, we kind of focused more on chapter 6. Celia and I had talked, there's a chapter, and it was, we had talked more that the questions didn't seem so much about the listening, so I didn't put a focus, so much on that chapter. And we just want to do one exercise, because it seemed, a sense I'm getting is, it's almost like it's really nice to focus on one chapter and one concept and kind of go in deep. I'm finding a little bit of tension when I'm trying to do 2 chapters, and then I'm kind of jumping between concepts, and it feels like really more grounding to just kind of focus on one chapter. And the next one, chapter 8, is bigger, larger chapters. So maybe we can just focus on 8 next time and see how that works. Yep.
One vote for doing chapter 7 and then by itself, and then chapter 8 by itself.
Bob is suggesting we go do chapter 7 next time just by itself. Just do one chapter at a time.
On the questioning?
Yeah, on questions. I can go for that. How does everybody else feel? It's like, it doesn't...
Yeah, Edwin, because last week I had, said that I wanted to see what chapters go together well together.
Right, that's right.
And I was thinking about it, and I think Bob's is actually the best option. We do need a slow, deep reading of each individual chapter, because some of them flow very well, but even when they flow well, the concepts aren't exactly the same concepts. So one a week actually would work better in getting that deep learning that we need to start this type of training off.
Okay. So I'm carrying a vote for 7, doing 7 next time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, then.
We are doing chapter 7 next time?
Yeah.
Okay.
In depth. So kind of doing it in depth.
Yes.
I did want to say we'll have the next meeting, and I forgot to mention about the Susan part now that we're supposed to have her do her workshop this week and next week and the week after, but because she's just had knee surgery and she's on opioids, so she said her head's all foggy. you know, from taking the drugs, and she's still in a lot of pain. She thought she'd be farther advanced, that we decided to postpone it instead and give her more time to sort of prepare. And a bunch of people from her group are also interested in joining, and they're interested in translating their work to online as well. So we can kind of collaborate with, you know, the lessons she has and what we're doing, and kind of, you know, add stuff and, you know, see how we can incorporate into a online training. So there's that part. And the other thing is I just got a notice for jury duty for next week, for Thursday, that I might have to go in for jury duty. I have to call the 23rd, the night of the 23rd, and then they'll tell me if I have to go in or not. And usually it can be a day-long, you know, event. So, or it could be just in the morning. So I don't quite know. So if I can't make it, does somebody else have a Zoom account that we can do? You could use that account.
I don't have one. Yeah.
You don't? Okay. So I might be able to give you my password or something if you want to. Celia, were you about to say something?
I do. I have a Zoom account.
Oh, okay. So if I can't make it, could everybody meet still and use your account?
Yeah.
Okay. Hopefully I'll be here, but it's just in that chance that I'm not, that you could hopefully. They have groupings. I'm on group 9, so I'm hoping they start calling like group 1, 2, and 3, and then you call. I don't know if you've done it before. You call the night before, and they say group 1 and 3, you come in. The rest of you, you know, you don't need to go. So usually you don't have to go, because so that's what I'm kind of hoping for. Also, Celia and I were talking, and you were wanting a random thoughts page. You had mentioned that, and I created that. And so if you look at the meeting notes, you know, it's number 4, there's a link to a random thoughts page. So you can click on that, and it's just a place to drop any kind of general ideas and stuff. So shared, because we use this page for note-taking, specific for the meeting, and then the you know, we have a page for just general kind of ideas and stuff. So yeah, so that's a little bit of just housekeeping. Is there any other sort of housekeeping things before we kind of close?
Yeah, I have a couple things. One, I redid the rubric, and so I emailed that to Edwin, and then I think you can post it. It's basically just a real rough and dirty sort of idea to try to get some of the main themes. I was talking about emotional, intellectual last night. Another member talked about mutuality. So think about, like, if we do classes, what are the themes? What makes it empathetic? And that's the idea to the evaluation. I also wanted to make it a self-evaluation to try to move away from judgment and to encourage self-trust. So those are the ideas that I'm throwing out. And then, Edwin, if I can talk to you after this is over just for a second, I want to check the wording on the banner that we talked about for the meeting.
Oh, okay.
And that's it. And that's what I got. So check out the rubric. Give me feedback. That's it. And
there's a Google Drive folder where all these meeting Google Docs are in, and there's a subfolder there for kind of resources and like your documents that you create, like that one. We'll put it in there as well, so we'll always have a record, a shared record. Barsha?
Bill, are you about the mutuality that you're talking about? Does it also refer to the connectedness, like common meeting point for empathy? Does that mean that's what you're talking about, mutualness? Remember, once I talked that there should be interconnection, or there should be some one common point in order for people to empathize with each other. Is that what you mean?
Well, partially. I think that one of the members, Lou's Wire, is the person who came up with it, and I think he would be the best one to really flesh it out. As a matter of fact, I expect him to take a look at this and just kind of like, redo it. But what he was talking about was a sense not just of being heard, but a sense that everybody in the group is sort of as I understand it. Again, everybody's taking care of, everybody feels and is committed to everybody being heard, and also a certain amount of everybody contributing towards the group's goal. That's how I understand it now. But again, this is a starting point for discussion, that's what it's meant. And then Lou is really very articulate about it, and I think that he could give you a much more detailed idea of what it is. I'm just trying to incorporate it to get the conversation going.
Okay.
Okay, another thing is Celia today led the opening feeling exercise. Mm-hmm. So Celia, could you write that up and add it to the toolkit? We can work to get you connected. I don't know if you're able to connect yet to the website. Okay. And if anybody else wants to create like an opening feeling exercise, kind of write it up and then actually present it. We need some kind of an exercise that kind of gets us connected to our body, and that we can just kind of start the meeting off. And so to end the meeting, if you're willing, we could do a feeling exercise of how do you feel now and what's your physical motion. And so this is kind of mine if you want to mirror it, if you feel comfortable. Kind of, yeah. It's kind of like, it's also like yoga, internet yoga. Yeah, kind of moving those muscles. So I feel, kind of a bit wavy and floaty. Yeah, so that's mine. So should we go around who's got one? Or Celia, would you? Oh, you'll go, Varsha.
Just observing birds. Relax and observe birds.
We're all on her porch looking up and observing. We're in Bombay looking at the birds. Is that it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Relax and just observe birds as if you have nothing to do all the time in the world.
Yeah.
Just pondering. Look at that.
Yeah. Yeah, I will open the window, open the window. Open the window.
Open the window.
Yeah. That's what I'm going to do first. Yeah.
And I'm going to kick back.
You got to get really low, just our heads showing. Only our heads are shut. Is that it? Do we got it?
That's good.
Yeah. Peter, you're going to have to do a sound one.
I'm actually stretching right now and just yawn. I'm going to yawn. So.
Okay, good. A good ending. Ending with feeling. Okay, then we'll see you next week, and look forward to it. And
we haven't Bob? Did we have Bob? Bob's one?
What?
Oh, we didn't have Bob. So thanks. Yeah. Oh, sorry.
Okay.
Oh, we have to get up. We have to get up. We have to get up.
Oh, thanks. Sorry about that. Didn't want to forget you, Bob.
Not at all.
Okay, then, next week, and I'll hang on here for Bill for a few minutes. So.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
So real quick, I don't know if you can read it, but it says it would be take the listening challenge, empathytent.com, creating a culture of empathy. We listen.
Mm-hmm.
4 lines centered. 3
To hand out to people, or?
No, that would be on the banner.
Oh, okay. Uh-huh.
That would be on the banner. And then you said something I forgot, creating community or something like that?
No, it's like whatever you feel comfortable with. You just do what you feel comfortable. Just prototype whatever you feel. You know, it doesn't really need to go through me. Just
okay.
You know, it's just
make sure
whatever.
that,
Sure.
if I'm
Yeah, I
not
think you know, a challenge. It sounds good. It sounds like people will say, "Oh, what is that?" You know, I like a challenge. You know, or so it sounds like it could be engaging and get people, you know, to
yeah, I think so. And I think the thing that'll make it be viral is that if we can create that page where they can see themselves doing it.
Mm-hmm.
I think the combination of seeing themselves, a la YouTube and Facebook, and the listening is really very powerful. So
One thing I had done is I had a sign that said, "I support the empathy movement," and I asked people to if I could take a picture of them holding up the sign.
Oh, okay.
And so there was like, yeah, I would say had about 30 people who did that. So that was kind of along the same line, right? Trying to just, how do we engage people? What do we do? And right. I just kind of posted all those. And so.
Yeah, no, that's the same idea.
Yeah, it's like they do some listening and then sort of pass it on. And
that's right.
And then it's kind of like the Where's George dollar bill? You know that one where you might have mentioned that if you find a dollar bill and it says "Where's George" stamped on it, and they give you a website, and then you go into the website and you type in the number, and then you can see all the places the dollar bill has been.
Yeah.
And so it's just any of those they're kind of creative ideas for creating engagement. So yeah, I think just the more things we can try, the better.
Right.
Yeah.
I think that's a real good chance. It'll be fun trying it out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Great. Okay. Well, good.
Okay, take care.
You too. Bye.